Good morning. Yes, and it is morning. It's not noon yet. We appreciate the great turnout today. We had over 100 register this morning. There was like 4 or 5 that said, "Can I get in today?" So I think that shows the value of the topic today. But just want to say again, thank you for coming to the Young Professionals. We call it an educational luncheon, and we want to thank the sponsors of our Young Professional organization. Critchfield & Johnson, an attorney firm, a law firm here in town, and then also the Commercial and Savings Bank. They've been longtime supporters of the Young Professionals, and we want to give them a round of applause. Additionally, it would be I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the OARDC and Shisler Center for allowing us to utilize their facility today. It's a great facility that probably is underutilized. We want to make sure that more events are out here, and I think this is a great event to showcase this venue. So thank you to them as well. So if you're new to the Young Professionals, if this is your first event, we do at least want to give you a quick overview of the YPs, and then we'll move right on. But it's really just a social organization that is trying to bring young professionals throughout Wayne County to the table together to build relationships, have conversations about the community and business and personal life, and hopefully make some lasting relationships that will be beneficial not only for you personally, but professionally as well. So please make sure that you like us on Facebook. I was told by our social media intern, Tiara, this morning to mention that. So like us on Facebook, and we'll make sure that we give you updates as to what every month we're doing. June 7th, this is a pretty good one too. This will be one of our best ones of the year. June 7th at the Steakhouse in downtown. We have a social, and there'll be appetizers and drinks and stuff, and so we hope that's a good turnout. What other stuff do I have here? Also, if you like today's presentation, there'll be one in the fall too that we'll try to match. So make sure that you are looking out for that. And I believe that's it. Samara, did I miss anything? No. Okay. Well, I'm going to turn things over to Rachel Messenger. She is the Assistant Director of Student Activities for the College of Wooster. She's going to introduce our speaker today. Rachel.
Well, welcome, everyone. Our speaker today is Kimberly Sayers. And Kim started her career here at the Ohio State University ATI in Worcester in 1989. When she was hired to create and lead the workforce training and continuing education efforts for the campus. As the Director of Business Training and Educational Services, BTES, Kim is responsible for industry outreach and partnership initiatives, which include customized workforce training, education, assessment, and related services, open enrollment professional development, as well as credit and non-credit continuing education offerings. In this role, she also serves as the Ohio Certification Test Administrator for the National Landscape Industry Certified Technician Program. That was a lot. Kim was the Interim General Manager of the Shisler Conference Center at the Ohio State University in Worcester during the 2003 year. She is currently a member of the Leadership Worcester Steering Committee at the Worcester Area Chamber of Commerce, the Workforce Innovations Network, WIN Steering Committee, and the Wayne County Common Good Advisory Team, the Rotary Club of Worcester, and the Wayne County Women's Network. Kim has a master's degree from The Ohio State University and a bachelor's degree from the College of Worcester. Additionally, she is a DISC facilitator, certified facilitator of increasing human effectiveness from Edge Learning Institute, a graduate of Leadership Worcester, the LEARN, L-E-R-N, Executive Leadership Institute, and Enterprise Ohio Network Circle of Training Excellence. And today she's here to talk to us about Master Your Focus, Maximize Your Time. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you for that introduction. I had someone ask me when the first announcement came out about this program, so what does it mean if you're the featured speaker at a Young Professionals event? And I said, it means that's the only way I can get into a Young Professionals event because of the age cap. So I'm thrilled to be here, actually. I am looking forward to this. As I look around the room, I know so many of you. So this is going to be like having an hour-long conversation with friends and colleagues and family. I see some relatives here. So I hope that you enjoy this. I mean, how often do you get a full hour to just talk, right? Just, I'm kidding. I'm not going to talk for the whole hour. Anyway, actually, what I hope happens is that you get involved in this conversation too. There are ideas and tips and tricks that I know you all have, and so I'm hope to draw some of your ideas and information out. We'll see how this goes. I think that if you can come away with one new idea or two on how to better use your time, then hopefully this will have been worth it. What works for one person as far as effective use of time doesn't necessarily work for another person. So we all have different approaches to our days. We all have different approaches to our work lives, our personal lives, our communication styles, as well as how we manage and use our time. So my hope is we generate a lot of ideas today, and that you can walk out of here with something, and something that you can use. Now, I am afraid that I have to tell you I have some disturbing news. Time really cannot be managed. Time moves on, regardless of what you do or don't do. And so the title of time management is something we all use and refer to often. And I think we know what we mean by that, but time happens, regardless of what we're doing and how we're using it. Time can't be managed. What you can manage is you and how you use your time, how you focus on priorities to maximize the time that you have each and every day. The people who are best at maximizing their time are the people who have the self-discipline to focus on priorities. So we're going to spend some time talking about that today. For the next 50 or 60 minutes, we'll talk about time in the context of priorities, some tips and tricks, maybe for better use of time. And we'll hopefully get around to being able to talk about the challenges of maximizing time. All right, I want to start us off on a good foot. If I were to give you $86,400, because I work for a state university, so I have to have that kind of money laying around, right? If I were to give each of you $86,400, how would you spend it? What's that? Anybody? Vegas? Yeah. All right, a big trip. All right, what else? A new house. Invest it. No, you can't bank it. I'm sorry. You have to use it or lose it. I heard house, I heard vacation, vehicle, maybe pay off that house loan or college loans. Yeah, those are all pretty big items. Here's the thing. We have 86,400 seconds in every day. We have to use them or we lose them. We can't bank those minutes or seconds. So really, it's important to think about priorities, the big picture items. All right, I'm going to get you started with a short activity here. Think about what you have to do for the rest of this week, your to-do list for the rest of this week. 5 to 10 items. Write it down. There's some paper on the tables. Make a list. And when you get those 5 to 10 things listed, then give each one an importance and an urgency. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being most important, give it an urgency and an importance, each of those. Once you've done that, there's a half sheet of paper on the table that looks like this with the priority matrix. Take those 5 or 6 items, you can number them or letter them however you want to identify those, and plot those in this matrix according to the importance and the urgency that you assign to them. Okay, hopefully you got at least a couple of items prioritized and plotted into this matrix. This is one of the tools that I use in the time mastery workshop. I do a time mastery and delegation workshop that is a 4-hour session. And what I'm doing for today with you is I've pulled some of those highlights out of that in hopes to give you some tools and some ideas to take with you without going through the full 4-hour workshop. This is one of those tools that a lot of times we have so much difficulty sometimes figuring out where to start. What do I start with? What is the priority? What should I be working on? And for me, I know it has always been easy to start with the easy things, to check those little tasks off of my daily list. This is just an easy way to take a few minutes, get your list together, assign it some importance and some urgency, and plot it to get an idea of where to start. So this is something that you can take back and start using if it works for you. Like I said, what works for one doesn't work for everyone. But the objective here, or the goal, is to really take a look at where you spend the most of your time, where you start. And that really, we really want to be working on those important goals. Be important and not urgent. Those are the things we know are important and we plan for and tackle those in an organized way. The other area is the critical activities, the important and urgent. Sometimes there certainly are things of urgency that come up. And so the priority matrix gives you just a quick and easy way, a visual way to see how do I stay working on those items that are at the top of this matrix rather than the not urgent, not important items and the urgent but not important items, those being the distractions and interruptions. So it really is about priorities. So, how do you go about using your time? And once you have those priorities identified, how do you actually fit all of those things into your day? I want you to spend some time right now, just a few minutes at your table, talking about tips for better use of your time. I know that there are ideas in this room that you have. Some of you probably do a phenomenal job of using your time and have ideas to share. So spend a few minutes at your table just brainstorming. What kinds of things do you do to make better use of your time? And we'll take a few minutes for that. here's some ideas. What ideas did you come up with? No, there were lots of ideas generated, I can tell. There was a lot of serious conversation. Come on. Great, yeah, so scheduling blocks of time so that you dedicate time to doing email or working on a particular project. And if you have that scheduled on your calendar, actually as an appointment for yourself, you don't schedule over it. That's a really important, a good idea, and I think it's an important one. I use that actually quite a bit, where I will, I'll do that. And for some of you, you may be in offices or businesses where you aren't always in control of your calendar. I know in my department, everybody can see my schedule. And so if I carve out a block of time and schedule it, then I know I've got that time. What else? Good idea. What else? Is that the idea that everybody came up with? Yeah.
I'll go. We talked about a couple of things. We talked about delegation, making sure you surround yourself with doers, making sure that you trust your team. We talked about having a whiteboard, writing things down and doing a task completely so that you can erase it. And then we talked about getting things done. If it takes 2 minutes to do it now.
Okay. All right. Good. The notion of delegation is an important tool in time mastery. If you're in a position to be able to delegate, that is something that is it's part of being able to better use your time. And it doesn't mean just turning over things that you don't like to do, but it means turning over things that might be a skill builder for someone else, that might help someone build a new skill or gain new knowledge. It might be the whole point of increasing others' responsibilities as part of their development plan, employee development plan. So there are ways to think about delegation in terms of being of value to the folks who are receiving the delegation, as well as a value to you to free up some more time for your use. Good. I like the idea of using the whiteboard to be able to just wipe something off when it's done. I like that. What else?
We talked about creating the right environment, so simple stuff like shutting the door, shutting your office door, or silencing your phone, maybe turning off the social media. So.
Yeah, all right. I don't know if everybody could hear that. There was a lot there, so help me remember. Shutting your door. If you have a door and you can close it, use it. You don't have to keep it closed 8 hours a day, but I do that, and the folks in my department know that if my door is closed, it's only temporary. It doesn't mean that I'm shutting myself in there for the whole day and I'm not going to talk to anybody or answer any questions. It just means that I need some time to focus and work on a priority. So I think that's a good one. Turning off your phone or social media, absolutely. Again, you don't have to turn it off for the whole day, but if you have a block of time that you really need to be working on something undisturbed, turn that off. The alerts, email alerts and social media notifications, those are constant distractions and interruptions. It's very easy to turn those off and put them aside. Good. Others?
I'll prioritize. Like if you have one thing that you must do every day, just focus on that first thing.
Good. The notion of prioritizing came up. And it was in specifically to, if there is one thing that you have to do every day, you know you have to get that done, to start with that. Do it. If that's the priority, do it. Good. Others? Yes?
I was going to say, just getting good sleep, and then also making sure to schedule time to not do anything.
Yes. Yeah, those are two biggies. get enough sleep. Sleep is pretty important, and I've learned that especially in the last year and a half. And scheduling, make time for yourself to do nothing, or to have fun, or even thinking time. Sometimes, one of those blocks of time that I put in my calendar might be I have no particular project to work on, but I just need some time to think about goals or priorities or strategy or a proposal, whatever it might be. Because thinking and creating is part of what we all do. So there's nothing wrong with making time to do it. We need to be on our best, at our best. Good. So it's really not rocket science. It really is about having the discipline to just do what needs to be done and doing it. This is a given, especially today. With the electronics that we have now to be able to keep our calendars and reminders with us, I think that's a value. It can be a blessing and a curse. But if we use it appropriately, I think it's a value. Somebody talked about this also. Start your day by planning your day, either at the beginning of the day or the end of the day for the following day. Use a list. How many use lists here? Yeah, lots of list makers. Are they long lists? It's important to be realistic about your list. That's one trick or tip that I would be sure and share. If you use a list, keep it short. I used to, when the Franklin Planner first came out, not when it first came out, but shortly after it came out. I'm not that old, but I started with using the Franklin Planner, and this was before the electronic version. So it was paper, and it was, if I did nothing else every day, I made my list. And I did my A priorities and my B priorities and my C priorities. And then I numbered them. A1, 2, 3, 4, B, 2, 3, 4, 5, on and on and on. My lists were so long, it took me longer to transfer the list from one day to the next because I never got through everything. I wasn't realistic about it. So the thing about using a list is to keep it short. Be realistic about what you can accomplish in this one day. And once I started doing that, I got more productive, and I felt so much better at the end of the day, too, because I didn't have so many things unfinished that I had to rewrite again tomorrow.
So how do you manage then with having a long list and then transferring it? Because that's what I think I found with myself. I do have a long list, and I'll transfer, cross off what I've done for the day, and I'll transfer it to the next day, but now it's a whole long list, so I try not to cross it off. But then how do you manage that, keeping what you need to get done? Obviously it's not priority A today, but tomorrow it's going to start becoming priority A.
I think so the question was, how do you manage that when you do have items left over on your list that didn't get done and they need to be done? I think that's something that only you ultimately can decide and figure out. What I've learned is I had to get realistic about what really was important. Are there things on my list that are just distractions, maybe that I didn't really need to do? Are there things, this comes up I think in a few more slides, but one of the things, are there things that I can stop doing? What can you stop doing? Are there meetings that you go to, that you have, or reports that you run or do that you can stop doing? Taking a critical look at, are we meeting every Monday at 1 just because that's the way it's always been done? Does anybody really use this report that I put out every other week? And I do it because the person before me did it, so I was told I had to, and I keep doing it. Some of those kinds of stop doing things are difficult because it involves other people. But if you really want to narrow that list and focus only on priorities, there needs to be, I think, some focus on what can you stop doing. Maybe there are things that you can't stop that need to continue to be done, but are those things that can be delegated or that can be done in a different way? So your list is going to be different than my list. It's just a matter of figuring out where are my real priorities. And are there things that can fall off the list and the world won't end? Yeah? Okay. This is a little comic relief here. Let's see if I can pull this up.
This morning I got up and got ready quickly because I had to get a lot of stuff done. I sat down at my desk to start getting my stuff done and I spilled my coffee, so I got a sponge to clean it up, and I figured I'd take an extra minute to clean the whole desk because a clean desk would help me get my stuff done. When I was finished, I realized I hadn't eaten anything and I didn't want to be hungry while I got my stuff done, so I went to the kitchen and I was out of cereal. When I got to the grocery store, I remembered a bunch of other crap I needed to get, and I figured I was already there, so I did my shopping for the week so I didn't have to worry about it while I got my stuff done. When I got home, I didn't feel like cereal anymore, and so I made an omelet and I did the dishes so I wouldn't have to do them after I got my stuff done, and then I went out to get some oil from the hardware store because my desk chair was kind of squeaky and I didn't want to be distracted by a squeaky chair while I got my stuff done. When I got back, it was getting kind of late, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get my stuff done today, so I started watching the Twilight Zone marathon on TV. I just have to make sure I get to bed early because I want to be well rested tomorrow so I can get my stuff done.
Anybody had a day like that? At least once a week? Yeah. I had a little bit of that last night when the Cavs came on. That was a rough one. So, like I said, comic relief, but really tackling the most important things first. It's that Stephen Covey, first things first, coming out of his 7 Habits. The 80-20 principle that you hear about, where 20% of our productivity and things that we get done comes out of 80% of our time. And the flip of that is 80% of our productivity comes out of just 20% of our time. So really being focused and starting with what's important. This one you already suggested, time boxing, making blocks of time for doing some things. Also, leaving a buffer between scheduled items. If you are a person who has meetings back to back to back, to be able to take control of your schedule as much as possible and put a buffer between those appointments or those meetings, because ultimately what's going to happen? A meeting's going to get started late, or it's going to run over, and then you end up being late or rushed for the next meeting or the next event or your next project. So maybe it's as simple as putting a few minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever works. And maybe it's different depending on what kind of meeting comes first or what kind of project you're working on. But that's a really simple thing to be able to do. Okay. So this, I do not subscribe to Dogbert's School of Time Management. But sometimes saying no can feel rude. Do you think? Yeah. It's okay to say no. Anybody in here say no regularly or feel comfortable being able to turn projects down or, yeah? Yeah? How do you say no without being rude? Yes. Yeah. It may not be an absolute no. It might be, I'm really sorry, I cannot take this project on right now because I am up against a deadline for a grant proposal or a customer proposal or a new marketing plan, whatever it might be. But I tell you what, after Tuesday or after next Monday, I can talk with you about putting a plan together for your project or your initiative. Yeah. How else can you say no? sometimes it's just no, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that sometimes I'm such an explainer and a rationalizer that it's really good to just say no without explanation.
Yes. If you're being honest and truthful and you can't do it, and if it's not a priority for you, and it's not your boss telling you or asking you to do something, that you can just say, no, I'm sorry, I am not able to do that. I just can't commit the time that it would take to do it well, and I don't want to take it on if I can't do it appropriately. Yeah. Another way to say no, which is one that I've used a few times with my boss actually, is to be able to say, all right, he comes to me with a project that he wants me to take on or a new initiative, and I'm happy to do it. But what I will say is, if this is your priority now, I'm happy to tackle this. Will you help me with figuring out these other 3 projects that we're working on for you? Which one do you want us to put on the back burner for now? So, there are ways of saying no without saying no if it is something that you just need to get to. But it's okay. It's okay. And in fact, I think it's important to be able to do that. Here's another one. What are you going to stop doing? Challenge anything that can be a waste of your time. Again, the meetings, the reports, things like that. That if there's no real value, sometimes we get stuck in going to meetings because they show up, because we get a meeting request, because somebody asked us, or because it's something that we've always met on Mondays at 1, whatever that might be. So challenge those kinds of things, and think about what you can stop doing. Is it a true need, or is it just a habit? That's one way to look at it. At a personal level, we're talking a lot about work-related kinds of things, but at a personal level, what things can you stop doing that really aren't adding value to your life or anyone else's life, but that you could better use that time for something else? Facebook, social media, Netflix. I mean, a good Netflix marathon is okay, but that is something that I can stop doing if I have other priorities. So this is the real danger zone here, isn't it? Eliminating all those time wasters and distractions. So let's talk a little bit about challenges of maximizing time in terms of dangerous distractions. What I want is to, let's say, like this part of the room, spend some time brainstorming what distractions might be the bright, shiny object. And talk about ways that you could deal with those distractions. And then the middle section of the room, talk about distractions that might be the black hole. What kinds of things would that be in your worlds? And brainstorm some ideas of how you might deal with the black hole. And then for the final third of the room, the fire drill. We all have fire drills, and sometimes our jobs are dealing with fires. But spend some time at your tables. And if you're not sure which group you're in, just agree to one as you're at your table. It doesn't matter. What are some of the bright, shiny objects that you deal with or that you came up with?
When the Board of Trustees comes to visit the college, or when folks from Germany come to visit, people sort of, take a lot of effort to make everything clean and shiny and like run through reports or, do things that we wouldn't normally do, and probably the report that we already have has the same data. Like we just wanted to look fancier for them. So why are we doing that?
Yes. So if you did not hear, the example was when the Board of Trustees, for example, comes to campus, or when executives from Germany come to Luke. It's a mad rush to make everything ready, to get everything ready, to run reports that at the last minute, probably we already had the data that we needed to be able to share. How do you deal with that? Did you come up with ideas?
Well, we talked a little bit about making some of the things like more routine. They were talking about folks who clean their lab up like crazy right before the executives come, but like if they cleaned their lab every day, then it would just always be clean, like.
Okay, all right. So some of those things that are important, make it more of a priority on a daily or weekly basis so that you're keeping up with it. Good. What other bright, shiny objects? Oh, there's one right there. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I love it. That's a good one. So how do you deal with that? Just shut it off. Back here, you had one.
We talked a little bit about like a new project in the department that might not be very important to your role, but since it's new and exciting, you might get something to pay a lot of attention to it.
Yeah, that big new initiative that maybe is important to somebody in the organization, but maybe it doesn't really have a lot of value, or we're spinning our wheels on it. How do you deal with that? Prioritize, okay. All right. There are an example of that years ago under a different campus director. Was right when cappuccino machines had just become a big deal, and everybody was getting cappuccino machines for Christmas, I guess. I don't know, I didn't get one. But my boss at the time suggested that, maybe we could do a continuing ed course, a workshop or something on how to use these cappuccino machines. And I had to really be delicate in figuring that one out. I guess I wasn't delicate about figuring it out, but I had to be delicate in my response. It was just one of those things that was a bright, shiny object. It was new and different at the time. But from a continuing education or professional development perspective, I really struggled to see the value. So I really had to draw on my communication skills for that one. Yeah, good. Other bright, shiny objects? What about the black hole?
Email. So a lot of times you're either the person that just clears their emails out, or you're that person like me who has that parentheses of you have 10 emails right there waiting to be answered. And there's some that you know that you need to answer, but you just don't want to. And it just keeps dragging you back in. And I think sometimes that's a big distraction. You have to do it, but you really don't.
Yeah, you got a couple things going on there, right? So the distraction about email, though, is very real. Whether it's just because that email notification keeps popping up, or just, it's so easy to be working on something and constantly in that window is popping up that I've got an email. Did you come up with ideas on how to deal with it?
Well, the one we talked about was the ones that you subscribe to. Take yourself off the subscribe list.
Yeah.
You're never going to read it, and it's just going to sit in your inbox. You can take those off your numbers and then not have to worry about getting them ever again. Maybe. And then just replying as soon as you can, taking care of it right now.
Yes. Yeah. Those are two good ones. Every once in a while I'll spend some time doing some research or looking for new resources, and I'll come across something. I'll think, oh yeah, I'd like to get those email notifications. And then 2 months later, I realize that I haven't read one of them in the last 3 weeks. So unsubscribe. That's an easy thing. But for emails that you have to deal with, I think part of planning your day and scheduling time for email is a good approach for some. That rather than stopping what I'm doing because I just got an email notification, so I'm going to go check that email and see if I can respond to it now. And maybe it's bigger than I want to deal with right now, so I close it up and come back to it later. So now I've just disrupted my train of thought or my focus on whatever I was working on to check this email, which really wasn't important anyway. So, scheduling time to check email. I'll block a time 2 or 3 times a day. Maybe it's not first thing in the day. Maybe it's early in the morning, but not first thing. And then midday and at the end of the day. And deal with emails, deal with voicemails, same kinds of thing, phone messages. Other black holes. Yes?
Just like the piles of paper
Oh.
that I'm never going to get back to. I mean, it's prints and stuff that I never get back to.
Piles of
Piles of
paperwork.
it, and I just sit on it.
So it's a waste of paper and energy and your time, right? Yeah. So what do you do about that? Did you come up with ideas?
It's more so you just need to get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Yeah.
But you're like, oh, maybe I need that. Sit down and leave.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we don't want to become, we don't want to become one of those folks on an episode of Hoarders because of keeping things that we might need someday. If you know in your gut it's not important, you're never going to need it again, or maybe it's available electronically, you can always go back to it and find it if you need it. Just get rid of it. There's something to be said about also keeping your workspace organized and clean and neat, because it's very easy to get distracted by all those stacks and piles. Good. I had a black hole once, years ago, where for me it was a coworker who would just come into my office and sit down and hang out for a while. Anybody else have that? Yeah, I see a lot of heads nodding there. So at the time, my office was in a cubicle world, and I know some of you still work in cubicle worlds. But so I couldn't just close my door, but I had read somewhere that if that's the case and you have chairs in your office, to simply put a stack of files or notebooks or something on the chair. So, they may still stop in, but if they can't sit down, they're not going to hang out very long. So I tried that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try. So I put stacks of 3-ring binders that were full of reports and whatnot on both chairs. And here comes Mark, true to form, in one day, sticks his head in. He doesn't really stick his head in, he just stops in. And he looks at the chairs, and he looks at me, and I'll be darned if he just didn't pick up one of those piles and move it and sit down anyway. So I had to figure out a different way to deal with that, which really became another point of I just needed to communicate some guidelines and perimeters. So, what about fire drills? Yes.
I work at Acro Brass, so we kind of specialize in putting out fires. A lot of the stuff that we get is really urgent. So what I found out that works best for me personally is actually just acknowledging the email, writing back to the person or calling them right back, saying, hey, I've got your email and I'm working on this as soon as possible. A lot of times that actually usually helps. They know I'm working on it, they're less likely to not be great results.
That's a really good point. Before email, we pick up the phone and call somebody when we had an issue or a question. And you could, on the other end of the phone, say, wow, I understand how important this is and how urgent it is. I don't know the answer right now, or it'll take me a few minutes to get to the information, so I will call you back. It's so easy with email when you get a sudden request that is urgent that, if I've sent the email and I don't hear back from you, I don't know if you got it, if you saw it, if you're out for the day or for the week or for the month. So that adds to somebody else's anxiety. So that's a good idea of, it's a fire drill for someone because it's really urgent and important right now. And a simple reply if it comes to you in an email to say, I got your message, I'm working on it. That's good. Other fire drills? Yes?
Our group kind of discussed knowing the difference between an actual fire and maybe people or clients who think there's a fire, but there's not.
Yeah. So we used to have a print shop at Ohio State ATI on campus, and I remember they had a sign hung when you walk in the door, and it said, "A lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part." So that's a little bit of what you're saying. What's really a fire? What's really important versus what is just somebody who wants to get it done or deal with it or wants you to tackle their problem right now? Yeah. So knowing how to determine whether it's really urgent or not, kind of along the same lines of prioritizing. Good. Other fire drills? Some of us, many of you, I'm sure, part of your responsibility includes dealing with fire drills. And so to be aware that these kind of distractions are going to happen, and to be prepared for dealing with that is important. And one of the things, this kind of goes along with planning your day, but plan for interruptions. Plan for the fire drills if you know it's going to happen. And whether you schedule time for standing check-in meetings or office hours if you're in a situation that you can. Again, building that buffer in between commitments so that you have time to deal with the fire drills or the interruptions. Some of this also goes back to being realistic with that list, your to-do list. How much can I realistically get done in a day? Knowing that I'm going to have interruptions or disruptions, fire drills that I have to deal with. In alumni relations, if an angry alum calls, you have to deal with it. In college and student affairs, if an angry parent calls, you have to. You can't just put that on hold or say I'll get back to you next week. So there are certainly some interruptions that are fire drills or that are important things we have to deal with. So we said this one already, close your door if you can. And turning off email and alerts, we said that one, scheduling time. One of the things around scheduling time for email or phone calls, I tend to do this with some phone calls. One of the audiences that I work with a lot is the landscape industry. And the same goes with a lot of the agriculture and horticulture industries. But for me to expect some of those folks to answer my phone calls between 8 and 4 is not realistic because they're out on job sites. That's when they're doing what they do. So I need to plan for either very early in the day or late in the day to try and catch those people. So there comes a time of year, we're coming into it this summer, where we administer a certification program, a national landscape certification program. And the emails and the phone calls are just getting ready to start flying, I know. And so I know that over the next couple months, one of the things I'm going to have to do is when I plan my phone call time and returning calls and messages, it's going to be planning for the audience that I'm working with. We said this one too. That isn't anything new. Really, really, truly, what it boils down to is communication. It's important to deal with distractions, priorities, anything around the use of your time. It's really important to communicate about that. And so communication with people around you as far as use of your time. If you're going to close your door, if you're going to schedule time in your calendar for working in a project or whatnot, if that's something totally new, and if all of a sudden people are going to say, "Whoa, what's that about?" in your office or in your business, just tell them, explain. Hey, I'm going to try to really use some time differently, and so if you see my door closed, know that it's temporary, know that I'm working on a particular project, and, if you want to leave a message, I'll get back to you. If you want to come back at another time, we can check in then. All right, here is one short activity that we do in the workshop. And if you want to just make note of these things on one of the pieces of paper, there are 168 hours in a week. What I would encourage you to do at some point, if you want to, is think about how many hours a week that you work, how many hours do you sleep on average, and how many hours of personal time do you spend. And that is personal time or things that you have to do. It might be committee work, a commitment that you've made, a volunteer commitment, a church board, kids, whatever it might be. And to tally that up and take a look at where your leftover time is. From time to time, I've had a few people who don't have leftover time, but the majority of people are shocked to see really how many hours in a week they have left over. So if you do that exercise, then spend time thinking about it. Where is your leftover time? For me, I had 29 hours left over in a week. I'm thinking, where in the world is that time? So to think about my day and what I'm doing. And where is that time? And a lot of it might be on the weekends. A lot of it might be early mornings. It might be evenings. If there are things that you want to do, how can I use that time differently? And again, this really gets at what do you stop doing? Because truly, your stop doing list is as important as your to-do list. So I would encourage you, when you go through that exercise, think about, choose one thing. What one thing can you stop for 3 weeks to a month? And then, maybe you can take a look and say, you know what, I really don't miss whatever it was that I stopped doing. So I have better use of my time. It's really not so much about how much time we have, but it's about how we spend the time that we have. And I can tell you, 16 months ago, I was in an automobile accident, and my vehicle rolled a few times. I climbed out and walked away, but I ended up being down and out for 10 weeks because of concussion. I wasn't permitted to do, the doctor said to me, you have to shut down your brain, shut down your mind. You can't do anything physically or mentally straining. Well, try that. Holy moly. But I tell you what, having all that time really drove home some pretty critical points to me. Priorities. Where were my priorities and how was I spending my time? And so I've made some shifts since then, both in my personal life and in my professional life. At work, one of the things that I realized was I had so many projects that I was working on that were in varying states of completion or incompletion. But those that I had put off working on, if it was something that was supposed to come to fruition in those 10 weeks, it didn't happen. And so the people in my department were left to pick up the pieces. So I've really taken a look at priorities and keeping up with the big picture projects since that time, and personally too, just in terms of knowing kind of where my focus is. And even one simple thing was, especially after that 10 weeks, I let that couch potato became a way of life for me, because I figured out how to not do anything physically or mentally straining finally, and I let that, once I got back to work, I let that become a way of life. So, I figured out a way to make time to find time that I could start doing something for my own fitness and my own health. And so, it's 2 days a week. I made sure that I can leave work earlier than I normally do. I don't stick around till 5:30 or 6 on those 2 days so that I can go work out. So it's shifting priorities, it's changing habits, and what can you stop doing as well. When I do this workshop, we use an assessment that the participants complete. And it's a tool that really folks can walk through on these 12 different critical areas. And the instrument then, the report allows for some action planning across these areas. So I can't share that assessment with you because it is a little bit of a cost. But I did some searching online and I found a freebie. And if you are interested in an assessment for yourself, it's a quick 15 questions maybe, I think it is. 15 questions online. And then there are some tools and resources based on your results that it shares with you. So if you go to that URL, go.osu.edu/time, you should be able to get to that assessment if that's of interest to you. All right. I have a time mastery riddle that I will end on this. I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half of the things you do, you might as well turn over to me and I will do them quickly and correctly. I am easily managed. You must be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done, and after a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of great people, and alas, of all failures as well. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, though I work with the precision of a machine plus the intelligence of a person. You may run me for profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, and be firm with me, and I will place the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? Yes, habit. It really isn't rocket science, but it is about habit. It's about having the self-discipline to focus on your priorities, figure out priorities, and having the discipline to do that. It takes 21 days to form a habit, so choose one thing that you want to start doing or stop doing, and try it for 21 days. Thank you. You have all been a wonderful audience. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You are most welcome.
I think we'd all like to thank Kim. That was a wonderful presentation, and she really is an incredible lady. She's great to work with, so thank you, Kim. And I think we can all agree that was a great 3,600 seconds of our day well spent, right? On behalf of the Wooster YP Committee, we'd like to thank all of you for coming today. There is some extra food out there, so on your way out, if you want to grab a sandwich or a bag of chips for the road. And also, don't forget to like us on Facebook. And make sure that you join us on June 7th at City Square at 5 o'clock for our next networking event. So thank you.